Okay, as I was pointing out, you can see the deck block. You can buy these at just pretty much any place that sells lumber. The deck block also sits on what we call a cement paver in this case. In other words, there's no permanent foundation underneath this shed. If you wanted a permanent foundation, the better way to do that would be to use cement pier tubes, which you pour the cement in, and then you set the 4x4 directly into a metal hanger that goes directly into the pier. That will give you a permanent foundation if that's what you want. This foundation is designed not to be permanent, which is required by code for a shed. You could also, if you wanted to, make a complete footer foundation around the bottom of the cabin, or if you wanted to, you could actually build a basement underneath this cabin, which would give you even more room. The cement piers and the deck blocks accept a 4x4, and that is the main structural support for the entire cabin. The support goes up through the wall and actually helps to even support the roof rafters that are upstairs. It goes up inside the wall, and that is what supports the walls and the roof. Attached to those is a simple 2x4 frame used the same way in just about any basic home construction. 2x4 set on 16-inch centers for the walls. The floor is made of 2x6s. Floor joists are 2x6s. There are 4 of those deck blocks, one on each corner, and in the middle are cement blocks with another beam that goes underneath the middle of the cabin to give it additional support. This is very strong for this size of structure, is an excellent foundation. If you're building a larger structure, you'd need more supports underneath it, but for this size, this works perfectly. Back up here a little bit and give you an idea of what it looks like from the roof perspective. That thing in the center of my roof is a passive air turbine. Smaller homes and any home will generally build up heat over time. If you leave them shut up without any good air circulation, you're going to have heat buildup. On my roof, that air turbine pulls the cool air from downstairs across the porch, through my windows and doors, and pushes the warm air out. It acts completely naturally without any electricity or power whatsoever. A slight breeze will get it turning, and also the heat as it rises up gets it turning. The heat is exhausted, and that way I don't need to have any expensive air conditioning on the cabin. And except for a few days in the very hottest part of summer, it rarely gets uncomfortably hot in there, and generally the downstairs stays extremely cool. The upstairs is a little bit warmer, which is what you would want when you're sleeping at night usually. You can see how I did the foundation of the house. It's simply skirted in wafer board. Eventually what I would like to do is do this all in river rock and give it a nice rock foundation look, although that will just be for appearances and I won't actually support it. It would sure make it look very nice. Now, a couple things you'll notice on the side of my cabin right here. This little opening that you can see here is actually my water inlet. It's kind of like a gas tank. What I do is I pull the cap off, I open this up, I stick my water hose in it that comes from my well, and then I fill up the tank. The tank's a 25-gallon tank, and when we get inside I'll explain how all the water features work. The 2 lines you can see running in and below it are actually power cords that I haven't quite put in permanently, so I just ran them through the same opening for now, but those go for 110 power cords and DC power cords into the house, and again I'll explain that here in a minute. On this end of the side of the cabin, you can see a black PVC hose that comes out from the side of the cabin. What that is that is my shower drain. Instead of running shower water into a septic system or something like that where it's always constantly flowing and keeping your septic system used, I use gray water system. The water simply runs out onto the grass. In this case, eventually this will be a flower bed on this side of the house, and so that will naturally water my flower bed without having to waste that water. It's perfectly clean, perfectly healthy, and it doesn't require any septic system. It could also be ran into what they call a French drain, which is simply a hole dug with gravel in it if you wanted to do that. Okay, to the back side of the house. My dog Wilma. Okay, on the back side of the house you can see my propane tanks. I've got a 100-gallon propane tank and I've got a bunch of smaller 7-gallon propane tanks. Propane is what I use to run my furnace, my stove, my fridge, and my on-demand water heater. In the wintertime, I have this 100-gallon tank filled up, and that gets me pretty much through winter. During the summer, I just go down and fill up the 7 gallons because it's cheaper for me to go get the propane than to have it delivered. If you're doing propane, you haven't done hookups on propane before, I'd recommend that you probably have somebody do the hookups for you, but they're not that difficult, and you can follow the basic instructions and install propane just fine by yourself. The back of the cabin, you can see that I have a door with glass siding on it, so I have a view of the outside. Goes up to the peak, another window in the front. Again, all sided with T111, same foundation, same piers on the outside.